Okay, let's dive into this. We're about to deconstruct the raw screenplay that really established a cinematic voice for an entire generation, Quentin Tarantino's True Romance. You gotta remember, before Pulp Fiction, even before Reservoir Dogs, this was the script. This was the one that laid out the blueprint for everything that was gonna come.
And this is how we meet our hero, Clarence. It's not some grand entrance or a big action scene. Nope, it's just him in a bar delivering this passionate, pop culture-fueled monologue. And this one speech, it tells us absolutely everything we need to know. He's a dreamer, he's an obsessive, and his entire worldview is filtered through movies and music.
So we kick things off with a classic film trope, the meet cute. But come on, this is Tarantino, so he immediately grabs that trope and twists it into something you have never seen before. Yeah, it's a romance, but it's got this dark, funny, kind of dangerous edge to it.
Now their connection, it isn't built on, deep, meaningful conversations about their childhoods. No way. It's a shared language of pop culture. He's obsessed with Sonny Chiba movies. She loves pie. He worships Elvis. She's all about Janis Joplin. They bond over the stuff they consume. And that right there is their entire foundation.
But here is the first really big twist. That whole meet cute, it's a setup. Alabama is a call girl, hired as a birthday present for Clarence. But the crazy part is, the feelings that grow out of this completely artificial situation, they are intensely, unbelievably real. So real, in fact, that they decide to get married in less than 24 hours.
And this confession, this just cements the script's whole twisted fairy tale core. You've got these two lonely souls kind of living on the fringes of society, and they find this genuine, almost childlike love in the most inorganic, craziest circumstances imaginable.
But this isn't just a fairy tale, right? That romance is about to collide head-on with a brutal reality. And that reality is centered around one guy, Alabama's vicious, terrifying pimp, Drexel Spivey.
So, how does our pop culture-obsessed hero handle a situation like this? Well, he gets advice from a spectral vision of his idol, Elvis Presley. Seriously, the king himself appears to Clarence and tells him that to truly free Alabama, he has to go confront Drexel.
This whole sequence is just a masterclass in escalating tension. It starts out as this tense negotiation, then it just explodes into a chaotic, bloody beatdown, and it ends with a choice that changes everything for them. That sudden, shocking violence, it becomes the punctuation mark that defines the entire scene.
And this, right here, is what screenwriters call the point of no return. It's exactly what it sounds like. By killing Drexel, Clarence makes a decision he can't ever undo. It literally catapults him and Alabama out of their quirky romance and drops them right into a violent, high-stakes crime story. There is no going back from this.
Okay, so let's see how this builds, because right after that bloody aftermath, we get a signature Tarantino tonal shift and a massive, story-altering plot twist.
I mean, this quote right here, it perfectly illustrates Tarantino's unique style. Alabama's reaction to Clarence committing a double homicide isn't horror, it's not fear, it's adoration. In her eyes, this incredibly violent act is the ultimate romantic gesture.
Yeah, let's just be crystal clear about what she finds so romantic here. He just committed an act of extreme, brutal violence. And this insane contrast between the terrible deed and her loving reaction, that's the dark, comedic whiplash that just defines Tarantino's work.
So the screenplay is forcing us to walk this really fine line. Is this an epic, ride-or-die love story, or is it a shared, dangerous delusion? And maybe more importantly, where does one end and the other even begin?
And then comes the twist that fuels the entire rest of the movie. In his hurry to get out of there, Clarence grabs a suitcase he thinks has Alabama's clothes in it. But instead, he finds $500,000 worth of pure, uncut mob cocaine.
So that suitcase becomes the inciting incident for the entire second act. Their goal is no longer just being together. Now it's surviving, selling these drugs and escaping with a fortune. The stakes, all of a sudden, are absolutely astronomical.
Look, you don't just steal $500,000 in cocaine from the mob without consequences. As they go on the run, the world of the story just gets bigger and bigger, bringing in new allies and, well, far more dangerous antagonists.
They head to LA to try and sell the drugs, and they have to rely on Clarence's old friend, an aspiring actor named Dick Ritchie. But hunting them is Vincenzo Cocotti, a mob consigliere who is, let's just say, a whole lot more terrifying than a pimp like Drexel.
This quote is just pure, uncut Tarantino.
It kicks off one of the most memorable monologues in cinema history, and it immediately establishes the life-or-death stakes. Cacotti isn't just a gangster, he's a force of nature.
The threat becomes terrifyingly real when Cacotti tracks down and murders Clarence's father. The famous Sicilian scene builds almost all of its tension through dialogue, and it proves that the mob is closing in fast, leaving a trail of bodies all the way to California.
So when you deconstruct these opening acts, what you find is the fundamental DNA of a style that would go on to completely define 90s cinema.
It really boils down to these core tenets of the Tarantino blueprint. You've got characters who are defined by pop culture. You have dialogue that functions as action. You have these sudden bursts of violent punctuation. And right at the heart of it all, you have this hyper-romantic, almost naive love story holding the whole crazy thing together.
And I mean it. You can think of this screenplay as the Rosetta Stone of the entire Tarantino-verse. Everything that he would later refine in Reservoir Dogs, perfect in Pulp Fiction, and explore in all his later films, you can find it right here in its purest, most untamed, and unfiltered form. And all of this leaves us with this central question of this twisted fairy tale. For Clarence and Alabama, their love story is literally written in blood. And it really makes you wonder if, in their world, there's even a difference between the two.